After leaving the ancestral god palace, Luo Feng and the primal chaos city leader traveled to the primal universe, where they met teacher Origin. Primal chaos city leader became emotional upon seeing his teacher in person again. While teacher Origin explained that the original mind had finally lifted the suppression on his willpower, he thanked Luo Feng for helping make this possible. Luo Feng paid his respects, recognizing teacher Origin as the earliest leader of humanity whose contributions had laid the foundation for the rise of the human race and later generations of experts. Teacher Origin stated that his powerful willpower could protect his miniature universe for some time even if sector beasts attempted to devour it. His willpower had been strengthened through long years of suppression by the original mind, making it exceptionally strong. He urged Luo Feng and Primal Chaos City leader to focus on dealing with the sector beast crisis rather than worrying about him. Luo Feng deeply admired teacher Origin's achievements, especially his creation of the virtual universe without access to the inheritance of ancient civilizations. Meanwhile, more and more powerful beings gathered at Milky Way Holy Land. Almost all true gods assembled, either in person or through divine power avatars connected to the virtual universe. During the meeting, Luo Feng revealed that he possessed a method to accurately track all sector beasts and displayed a detailed map of Universe Ocean, showing the locations of miniature universes and every sector beast. The map revealed approximately 900,000 sector beasts. About half remained in the outer regions, while around 10,000 were already consuming 3 miniature universes. The remaining 450,000 sector beasts were advancing toward the original universe. The sight of so many approaching enemies alarmed all the true gods, who questioned how they could possibly resist such overwhelming numbers. Many true gods fell into despair, but 9 Remoteness True Master argued that survival was more important than preserving miniature universes. Even if all their miniature universes were destroyed, future generations could eventually produce new true gods, provided the sector beasts were exterminated. However, many smaller races remained worried because they lacked the resources to easily produce future true gods. And the destruction of a miniature universe would permanently eliminate any chance for its owner to advance further. The human true gods especially wished to protect the miniature universes of Teacher Origin and Luo Feng, believing both were destined to become true gods of void space and eventually transcend reincarnation. As time passed, desperate messages arrived from surviving true gods of the First and Second Universe eras. Their races, friends, and miniature universes had all been annihilated, leaving only a few survivors hiding in Universe Ocean. Morosa then informed Luo Feng that the sector beasts had divided into 2 massive groups of more than 450,000 each. One group remained in the regions formerly occupied by the First Universe era's miniature universes. The second group was not moving toward the many miniature universes of the original universe but was instead converging directly on Luo Feng's miniature universe. Luo Feng observed that all 450,000 sector beasts were steadily approaching his miniature universe from every direction. He considered using the godly king-level treasure star tower to completely shield his miniature universe and slaughter the attackers if necessary, though doing so would require him to remain nearby. Suddenly, Morosa discovered a shocking development. The first group of 450,000 sector beasts had begun gathering together and fighting each other. Over 100,000 had already been killed and devoured. Morosa immediately realized the danger. If the slaughter continued, the surviving sector beasts would rapidly evolve, potentially creating a level 6 sector beast. Luo Feng found himself trapped in a cruel dilemma. If he left to stop the internal battle among the first group, the second group of 450,000 sector beasts would immediately devour his miniature universe. If he stayed to defend his miniature universe, the first group would continue consuming one another until a level 6 sector beast was born. The enemy had forced him to choose between losing his miniature universe or allowing the emergence of a level 6 sector beast. Luo Feng faced an impossible choice. One group of 450,000 sector beasts surrounded his miniature universe and could devour it at any moment, while another 450,000 sector beasts were in the former First Reincarnation Era region, fighting and devouring each other in pairs. If this continued, a terrifying 6th stage sector beast could emerge, and even Luo Feng would have no chance of stopping it. A sixth-stage sector beast could split into 10 million bodies, eliminate all rivals, become the king of its race, and create an overwhelming army capable of destroying everything. During the gathering of all true gods in the virtual universe, Luo Feng openly explained the situation. The various true gods quickly realized that if Luo Feng went to stop the evolving sector beasts, his miniature universe would likely be devoured. If he stayed to protect it, the sector beasts elsewhere would continue evolving toward a catastrophic sixth-stage existence. The sector beasts had adopted this cruel elimination method because Luo Feng's power had forced them into desperation, making them choose the fastest way to produce a king. Primal Chaos City leader privately told Luo Feng that the other races hoped he would sacrifice his own future to save everyone, even though they would not dare say it openly. Luo Feng admitted that he had no other choice. He then announced that he would immediately head to the first reincarnation era region and do everything possible to stop the sector beasts. The human true gods, including Fire Dome True God and Hong, tried to persuade him otherwise because his miniature universe would almost certainly be lost. Luo Feng refused to change his decision, saying that protecting the universe from the sector beast calamity was the highest priority. He explained that he was not completely confident of success, as the sector beasts were already scattered and fighting in pairs, making large-scale extermination extremely difficult. The true gods of all races eventually accepted his decision. They understood that Luo Feng could not even guarantee the safety of his own miniature universe, much less theirs. They encouraged him to focus entirely on defeating the sector beasts and not worry about their miniature universes. Everyone realized that survival depended entirely on Luo Feng's success. Watching quietly from a corner, Sitting Mountain Guest admired Luo Feng's character. Despite becoming the strongest being in Universe Ocean, Luo Feng had maintained a pure heart and was still willing to sacrifice himself for others. Sitting Mountain Guest believed that many powerful beings became corrupted by greed, but Luo Feng had remained true to himself. At that moment, Sitting Mountain Guest privately contacted Luo Feng and told him to focus on fighting the sector beasts. He revealed that he would personally go to Luo Feng's miniature universe and use a treasure to protect it from being devoured. Luo Feng was shocked and immediately asked about his teacher's own miniature universe. Sitting Mountain Guest explained that he could only protect one miniature universe. If he chose Luo Feng's, his own would be left defenseless and likely destroyed. Luo Feng became anxious and tried to stop him, but Sitting Mountain Guest refused. He said that even if he never reached the void space level, it would not matter. Luo Feng's future was far more important. After spending endless years nurturing him, Sitting Mountain Guest could not allow Luo Feng's limitless potential to be cut off. He further explained that one day Luo Feng would learn all the hidden secrets and understand why he had to do this. He promised to protect Luo Feng's miniature universe even at the cost of his own life and told him to concentrate entirely on defeating the sector beasts. Deeply moved, Luo Feng reflected on how Sitting Mountain Guest had always helped him throughout his growth and had never asked for anything in return. Although Luo Feng had long suspected that his teacher might have hidden plans, he could no longer ignore the immense kindness he had shown. Luo Feng silently vowed that once the sector beast crisis ended and everything he cared about was safe, he would repay Sitting Mountain Guest's kindness even if it cost him his life. Soon afterward, Luo Feng left the primal universe wearing silver armor and 5 pairs of wings, flying into the endless chaotic airflow to confront the sector beasts. At the same time, Sitting Mountain Guest arrived at the entrance to Luo Feng's miniature universe. Having already received permission, the guards allowed him to enter freely, and he proceeded inside to begin protecting it. Inside Luo Feng's miniature universe, Sitting Mountain Guest entered a newly forming dimensional space and observed the extraordinary structure of the universe. Sensing that it was fundamentally different from ordinary miniature universes, he decided to remain there and guard it, while the 450.000 sector beasts stayed outside. He instructed Luo Feng to monitor them and notify him if they began attacking. Since the sector beasts were only threatening the universe and not yet devouring it, Luo Feng chose to wait rather than force Sitting Mountain Guest to defend it indefinitely. Elsewhere, Luo Feng's godly-powered avatar stayed beside Morosa in a spaceship. Morosa monitored a distant region where fewer than 50.000 sector beasts remained after continuous internal slaughter. Luo Feng's original body was moving toward that area. But he had not yet selected a target because any attack would immediately alert all remaining sector beasts. He ordered Morosa to observe carefully, identify those consuming the most enemies, and warn him whenever any sector beast approached level 5. As time passed, the number of sector beasts rapidly declined from 450.000 to under 3.000. Morosa explained that no level 5 sector beast had appeared yet and advised patience, as newly evolved level 5 beasts would still be weak. Luo Feng agreed but reminded Morosa that a level 6 sector beast must never be allowed to emerge. Morosa reassured him that reaching level 6 would require absorbing the power of roughly 2/3 of all sector beasts, making it extremely difficult. The waiting continued while the remaining sector beasts kept devouring one another. Eventually, fewer than 1.000 remained, and Morosa detected at least 3 level 5 sector beasts. Luo Feng still delayed his attack, believing stronger targets would emerge if he waited longer. When the number dropped to only 210, Morosa reported that at least 10 had reached level 5, with 3 standing far above the others. Luo Feng finally decided it was time to act before a level 6 sector beast could be born. Calculating that he could likely kill only 2 or 3 targets before the others escaped, Luo Feng selected the 3 strongest sector beasts as his priorities and teleported toward the most powerful one, Qi Ya. Morosa explained that Qi Ya had already been among the strongest level 4 sector beasts before the massacre and had devoured more opponents than any other, making it the closest to reaching level 6. Qi Ya was confidently consuming another sector beast while dreaming of becoming the ultimate king. It believed that once it reached level 6, it would gain 10 million bodies, become effectively immortal, and eventually dominate all rivals. As one of the strongest survivors, Qi Ya considered itself the leading candidate to become king. Suddenly, the surrounding space solidified. Qi Ya immediately realized that only Milky Way Horde leader Luo Feng could possess such power. Terrified yet resentful, it understood that its hopes of becoming king were about to end. Luo Feng appeared in silver armor with his gleaming wings, while Qi Ya recognized itself as the unfortunate sacrifice chosen by the enemy. Qi Ya roared in hatred and warned Luo Feng that he would regret this attack. Luo Feng ignored the threat and activated his wings, creating a miniature universe around the battlefield. At the same time, Qi Ya urgently transmitted a message to every sector beast except Morosa, announcing that Milky Way Horde leader had attacked and ordering them to destroy Luo Feng's miniature universe in revenge. Filled with rage, Qi Ya charged forward and immediately unleashed its strongest technique, destruction. While preparing to fight to the death, the message spread instantly throughout the entire sector beast race. All the remaining sector beasts had previously agreed that if Luo Feng ever left his miniature universe to hunt them, they would retaliate by attacking the universe itself. Upon learning that Luo Feng had emerged, they concluded that he was gambling everything. Enraged, the sector beasts resolved to risk everything as well. More than 450.000 sector beasts surrounding Luo Feng's miniature universe teleported closer. Once they reached the necessary distance, all of them simultaneously unleashed streams of devouring power toward the enormous miniature universe. Over 450.000 sector beasts began devouring Luo Feng's miniature universe at the same time. As Luo Feng's miniature universe continued forming, Sitting Mountain Guest waited inside it for nearly 20 days, expecting the sector beasts to eventually begin devouring its origin. The delay was caused by the lengthy battles and digestion process among the sector beasts, as their rapid evolution required time after each devouring. When 450.000 sector beasts finally launched their attack, the enormous disturbance in space-time spread throughout the entire miniature universe, alerting Sitting Mountain Guest that the devouring had begun. Inside the origin of Luo Feng's miniature universe, 100.000 planets revolved around a core of nothingness that continuously devoured chaotic airflow. When the combined devouring power of the 450.000 sector beasts descended upon the origin, Luo Feng manifested a divine avatar there and used his willpower to resist. The confrontation resembled a tug of war, but to everyone's shock, the sector beast's devouring force collapsed instantly. Neither side could understand how the attack had failed so completely. By examining his origin, Luo Feng suddenly realized the true significance of the beginning of the origin and the 100.000 heavens. These structures were the ultimate result of his comprehension of life genes at the 100.000 times level and possessed the same perfection as the complete life structure diagram itself. Unlike ordinary true gods' miniature universes, which were inherently incomplete and therefore vulnerable to devouring, Luo Feng's miniature universe was complete and flawless from birth, with no leakage whatsoever. Even if its internal planets were destroyed, the beginning of the origin could instantly regenerate everything. Because it was perfectly complete, the sector beasts were unable to devour even the smallest trace of its origin. This perfection also explained why Luo Feng's miniature universe had a diameter of 1 billion light-years, far exceeding the 100 million light-year universes of ordinary true gods. Although it was not yet larger than the miniature universes of void space true gods or eternal true gods, its flawless structure guaranteed that it would eventually surpass them once Luo Feng advanced further. The situation resembled the evolution of sector beasts themselves. Their ultimate king would become a complete life form capable of converting sector beast power and divine power freely, possessing countless talents including breeding and devouring. A true king of sector beasts would be able to devour even Luo Feng's miniature universe and threaten the primal universe itself. However, the current sector beasts had not yet reached that level of perfection. Against Luo Feng's complete and leak-free universe, their devouring talent was completely ineffective. Luo Feng was astonished and delighted by the revelation, while the 450.000 sector beasts were equally shocked. They had always viewed themselves as superior life forms capable of devouring any miniature universe. Yet Luo Feng's universe proved completely immune to them. Feeling the massive disturbance, Sitting Mountain Guest prepared to intervene. But Luo Feng informed him that the sector beasts could not harm his miniature universe. After hearing the explanation, Sitting Mountain Guest realized that the extraordinary 1 billion light-year universe was responsible for this unique outcome. Reassured that Luo Feng no longer needed protection, he departed. Meanwhile, in another region, Luo Feng was battling the 5th stage sector beast Xia. Xia repeatedly used the supreme technique destruction in a desperate attempt to survive. Luo Feng welcomed the battle because each use of destruction allowed him to study the mysteries of origin destruction. During the fight, news arrived that the attempt to devour Luo Feng's miniature universe had completely failed, leaving Xia stunned. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Luo Feng launched his soul enslavement technique, 3 stars sector, hoping to enslave Xia just as he had enslaved Morosa. Although Xia's soul was only slightly stronger than Morosa's, its willpower was among the strongest of all sector beasts. Realizing the danger, Xia chose to self-destruct before the enslavement could succeed. Luo Feng concluded that weaker-willed sector beasts might still be vulnerable and immediately teleported away to hunt new targets. The failure to devour Luo Feng's miniature universe caused a crisis among the entire sector beast race. Realizing they could neither destroy Luo Feng's universe nor stop him from slaughtering and enslaving them, they unanimously decided to activate their most dreaded contingency, the final abandonment plan. This plan required the sacrifice of vast numbers of sector beasts but guaranteed the birth of a 6th-stage sector beast. According to the supreme law, forcing Morosa to reveal his true form would eventually lead to the birth of the final king of the sector beasts. They believed that only such a king could kill Luo Feng. Though most sector beasts considered the plan humiliating and cruel, they saw no alternative. Determined to create the ultimate king, all 450.000 sector beasts immediately abandoned their siege and teleported away in every direction to begin executing the final plan. After forcing Qi Ya to self-destruct, Luo Feng immediately began hunting the remaining powerful sector beasts. Although all 450.000 sector beasts had scattered and fled in different directions, he was still able to track them through the coordinates constantly provided by Morosa. However, he understood the harsh reality of the situation. Individually, these sector beasts were far weaker than him, but there were simply too many of them. The distance between even the nearest 2 sector beasts was already more than 10 million light-years, making it impossible for him to eliminate them all before they continued evolving. Luo Feng knew that among the original 900.000 sector beasts, only a limited number could eventually reach the 5th stage. Even under the most optimistic circumstances, there would likely be around 100 5th stage sector beasts, while the actual number would probably be closer to 50 because stronger individuals would consume more resources than weaker ones. Therefore, Luo Feng decided that his goal was no longer to exterminate every sector beast. Instead, he would focus on killing or controlling every 5th stage sector beast before they could produce a 6th stage existence. His next target was Meng Ku, one of the 3 strongest sector beasts among the group from the First Universe era. Alongside Qi Ya and Angxi, Luo Feng believed Meng Ku possessed tremendous potential but lacked the extraordinary willpower displayed by Qi Ya and Morosa. Because of this, he thought there was a chance to enslave it. Using his miniature universe, Luo Feng instantly sealed the surrounding space and trapped Meng Ku. The sector beast was shocked when it suddenly found itself face to face with the being all sector beasts feared most, the Milky Way Horde leader. Meng Ku immediately launched its strongest attack, manifesting a giant light-based sector beast and unleashing a destructive whirlpool attack. Luo Feng calmly countered with a blade strike from Bloodshadow Blade. The whirlpool was shattered, and a hidden soul attack silently penetrated Mengchu's body. The attack was the supreme enslavement technique, 3-star sector. A powerful secret art originating from Jin country. Luo Feng watched nervously as the technique invaded Mengchu's soul. After a tense moment, success finally arrived. Mengchu's soul fell completely under his control. When it regained consciousness, it respectfully addressed Luo Feng as Master. Delighted by this success, Luo Feng immediately ordered Meng Ku to begin hunting nearby sector beasts while he pursued Angxi. Both of them departed in different directions. Maximizing their efficiency, Luo Feng deliberately avoided bringing Meng Ku with him because the sight of a formerly free sector beast following him would immediately alert potential targets. The enslavement of Meng Ku sent shockwaves throughout the entire sector beast race. Every fleeing sector beast sensed that Meng Ku had joined the enemy. Just as Morosa had previously done, panic spread rapidly. The sector beasts began warning one another about Luo Feng's terrifying soul techniques and became determined never to allow themselves to be captured alive. This change became obvious when Luo Feng tracked down Angxi. The moment Luo Feng arrived and began forming his miniature universe, Angxi chose self-destruction without even attempting to fight. The explosion shook space itself. But Luo Feng emerged unharmed. Instead of satisfaction, however, he felt frustration. Mengchu's enslavement had frightened the sector beasts so thoroughly that they now preferred death over the possibility of becoming his slaves. The sector beasts had reached a collective conclusion. Even the strongest among them, Betty, Qi Ya, and Meng Ku, had failed to resist Luo Feng. Since defeat was inevitable, self-destruction was preferable to becoming a weapon in his hands. Over the following days, Luo Feng continued his pursuit. Another 5th stage sector beast also chose self-destruction when cornered. Realizing direct pursuit was becoming ineffective, Luo Feng developed a new strategy. He and Meng Ku worked together. Meng Ku would locate and engage a target first, because sector beasts could not self-destruct while actively fighting another sector beast. Luo Feng could then arrive during the battle and use his enslavement techniques without giving the target an opportunity to destroy itself. This strategy proved highly effective. Over time, Luo Feng successfully enslaved 8 sector beasts. 5 of them had already reached the 5th stage, while 3 were 4th stage sector beasts. These new slaves significantly increased the strength of his growing force. Morosa, however, became uneasy. It pointed out that among Luo Feng's 9 enslaved sector beasts, it was by far the weakest. Luo Feng reassured it by reminding it of their earlier agreement. He had promised that if Morosa faithfully served him, he would eventually allow it to consume other sector beasts and grow stronger. Since only one enslaved sector beast could ultimately survive, Luo Feng intended for Morosa to be that survivor. Luo Feng understood that a 2nd stage sector beast could leap directly to the 5th stage by devouring enough stronger sector beasts. Since all of the enslaved sector beasts were under his control, none could resist or self-destruct. If necessary, he could sacrifice all of them to strengthen Morosa. In fact, he had already begun considering an extreme possibility. If he could not prevent the birth of a 6th stage sector beast, he might create a 6th stage sector beast under his own control. Despite these successes, the broader situation continued deteriorating. The overwhelming majority of sector beasts fled into Lost Ocean Domain, a mysterious and largely unexplored region of Universe Ocean. Out of the 450.000 sector beasts from the second group alone, approximately 420.000 escaped there. Only around 30,000 remained outside. Lost Ocean Domain was extremely dangerous because anyone who entered could easily become permanently lost. Yet the sector beasts were willing to take that risk because they could sense one another's locations and use those sensations as navigation. Luo Feng also entered Lost Ocean Domain, bringing Meng Ku with him. Through Meng Chu's connection to Morosa, he could still find his way home. Unfortunately, Lost Ocean Domain soon proved to be a nightmare. The sector beasts scattered in every direction. Chasing one target often meant moving farther away from countless others. Worse still, many of them escaped through natural wormholes that Luo Feng could neither locate nor track. The sector beasts were gradually building a map of Lost Ocean Domain through collective exploration, while Luo Feng remained almost completely ignorant of the region. For months, Luo Feng continued hunting. He killed numerous sector beasts and enslaved several others. But his achievements represented only a tiny fraction of the total population. Eventually, he was forced to admit that he could no longer stop the overall evolution of the race. As he prepared to withdraw, Morosa delivered grim news. The number of sector beasts Luo Feng had eliminated was nowhere near sufficient. Based on the remaining population, there were enough survivors to produce at least 2 sixth-stage sector beasts. Morosa then explained the iron rules of fate governing the sector beast race. These rules existed to ensure the birth of a final king. The first rule stated that 2 sixth-stage sector beasts could never coexist. They were required to kill one another until only one survived. The second required the evolution process to continue until the final possible moment during the race's gestation period. The third stated that if only 2 sector beasts remained alive, they had to fight regardless of their relative strength. The fourth declared that the final survivor, whether first stage or sixth stage, would become the ultimate king. Meanwhile, another threat remained. Roughly 30,000 sector beasts had intentionally stayed behind in the normal regions of Universe Ocean. They were scattered throughout the 3 most dangerous lands and numerous deadly regions. Their purpose was to serve as navigation beacons for the sector beasts hiding in Lost Ocean Domain. As long as these survivors remained alive, future 6th-stage sector beasts would be able to find their way back. Luo Feng immediately launched a massive extermination campaign. Most of these remaining sector beasts were only 2nd stage and far too weak to resist him. He captured enormous numbers of them and imprisoned them inside Star Tower, where Meng Ku devoured them. However, some escaped into places even Luo Feng dared not enter. One example was Dark Yang Domain, an infamous region from which escape was believed impossible. More than 100 sector beasts hid there. Luo Feng sent avatars and automaton ships to investigate. But once inside, none could return. Realizing that certain hiding places were beyond his reach, he reluctantly accepted that complete extermination was impossible. While Luo Feng struggled in Universe Ocean, the true evolution of the sector beast race unfolded inside Lost Ocean Domain. Hundreds of thousands of sector beasts fought one another in endless battles. Entire regions became slaughterhouses as they devoured and evolved. Nearly a year passed. Eventually, only 2 sector beasts remained alive, Mohei and Yu. Both had evolved to the 6th stage and reached extraordinary levels of power. Their bodies were covered in blood-colored engravings, and each possessed terrifying destructive abilities. Bound by fate, they confronted one another for the final duel. The battle was brutal and decisive. In the end, Yu was annihilated. Mohei devoured its rival and immediately reached the absolute peak of the 6th stage. Having become the strongest free sector beast in existence, Mohei began its journey back to Universe Ocean. Guided by the surviving sector beasts left behind as reference points, it successfully navigated the route. As Mohei approached, the remaining free sector beasts realized their purpose had been fulfilled. One after another, they voluntarily self-destructed. Before dying, they entrusted all hope, pride, and glory of their race to Mohei. They begged it to kill Luo Feng and ensure the supremacy of the sector beast race. Soon, every free sector beast except Mohei had vanished. At that moment, a profound change occurred. Morosa and all of Luo Feng's other enslaved sector beasts simultaneously sensed a new decree of fate. They urgently contacted Luo Feng and revealed the existence of a previously unknown 5th iron rule. The rule stated that if only one free sector beast remained, all enslaved sector beasts must also fight among themselves until only one survived. That final enslaved sector beast would then battle the final free sector beast. Their confrontation would determine the ultimate king of the entire race. Luo Feng immediately understood the implications. His original plan had been to use his enslaved sector beasts as research subjects. By studying their powers of destruction over a long period of time, he hoped to continuously improve his own strength and gain a better chance of victory. However, the supreme law was no longer allowing him that opportunity. The appearance of the fifth iron rule accelerated everything. Fate itself was forcing the final king to be born immediately. If Luo Feng's side prevailed, the disaster could still be avoided. But if Mohe won and became the ultimate king, the consequences would be catastrophic. Everything Luo Feng had spent his life protecting, including his family, humanity, and all life within Universe Ocean, would face destruction. Realizing that the decisive battle was finally approaching, Luo Feng gathered himself and began returning to the primal universe. As he traveled toward the inevitable confrontation, one thought repeatedly surfaced in his mind. Before facing the greatest battle of his life, he wanted to see his family one more time.